Good morning, student. We are dealing with the reproduction in lower and higher plants. In last lecture, we have completed the topic of structure of Anthropus ovule and the development of female gametophyte. And hopefully you have done the reading with the different terminologies related to the fertilization. Now today's lecture we are dealing with the pollination. So let's start with the pollination. So the what actually the pollination is? It is what? It is the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of flower. Okay, so this is what? This is the definition of pollination. In the traditional types of this pollination are two types, that is self pollination and cross pollination. We all know that the pollination are of two types in traditional ways, self pollination and cross pollination. But in your textbook, pollination and they have given the types of pollination divided into the three types, that is autogamy, genatogamy and xenogamy. Okay, so this pollination is differentiated, or they have the three types. One is what? Autogamy, genatogamy and xenogamy. Okay, the autogamy is also known as self pollination and xenogamy is also known as cross pollination, right? So I have made the differentiating point, not actually the differentiating point, but this is the notes, short notes, you can remember it very quickly. So the autogamy, it happens in bisexual flower with several adaptation. Okay, if the flower or if the plant is self pollinated, then it should have the adaptation for it. Okay, next point of autogamy is offsprings are genetically identical to the parents because self pollination is happening over there. Okay, so the whatever offsprings are producing, they are exactly or genetically identical to their parents. Next, they have given the terminology like chasmogamous, homogamy and clistogamy. Okay, so what is the chasmogamy? Chasmogamy is nothing but the flower opens to expose its sex organ to facilitate the pollination. That term is known as what? Chasmogamy. Okay. Next is what? Homogamy. Homogamy means the anther and the stigma mature at the same time, so it can facilitate the self pollination. So if anther and stigma are maturing at the same time, then you will use the term homogamy for the particular flower. Okay, so for example, I'm just giving you the example, the hibiscus, you can say if the anther and stigma maturing at the same time, then you will see you will call it as homogamous flower. Okay, next is what? Clistogamy. The self pollination happens before the opening of flower. If the pollination, that is self pollination, is happening before the opening of flower, then it is known as what? Clistogamy. Okay, so the three terminologies you have to remember, that is chasmogamous, homogamy and clistogamy. Chasmogamous, that is exposing the sex organ of flower to facilitate the pollination. Homogamy, that is anther and stigma are getting matured at the same time, and clistogamy, that is self pollination happens before the opening of flower. Next type of pollination is geitonogamy. That is, first point in geitonogamy is nothing but the transfer of pollens to the stigma of different flower produced on the same plant. Okay, so plant is one, but the flowers are different. Okay, means pollen grains from one flower is transferring onto the pollen stigma of the different flower from the same plant. Okay, so it is functionally similar to that of the cross pollination, but it doesn't favor the variation and evolution process. Okay, so you will not find any variation because it happening into the same plant. Okay, and it will not favors the evolution process. Okay, if what it means if you see the evolutionary process, you will not you can't consider this point, or you will can't consider this type of pollination for evolutionary studies, right? Next is what? Next is cross pollination. Cross pollination, then another term is xenogamy. Pollen from the flower deposited on the stigma of the different flower of the same species. Here the plants are different. In geitonogamy, the plant is same, but in xenogamy, the plant is different and flowers are also different. Okay, it required the pollinating agencies for this cross pollination, obviously, and the progeny or the offsprings are genetically varied. It is not identical to their parents, because the plants are different, but the species are same, but plants are different, so we will get the genetically different offsprings, right? Now we are going to deal with the pollinating agents. Okay, so pollinating agents, they could be abiotic or biotic. Abiotic may they have given the two terminologies, that is anemophily and hydrophily. Biotic is nothing but entomophily, ornithophily and chiropterophily. Okay, so we are going to deal with one by one. Okay, so abiotic agent. What is the abiotic agent? These are the non-living agents which include wind and water. Okay, so in this, if I have used the term anemophily, then it is nothing but the pollination by wind. Okay, this is the terminology for wind pollination. The example they have given in your textbook, that is wheat, rice, corn, rye, barley and oats are pollinated with the help of wind. Okay, so they have given the adaptation flower, wind pollinating flowers. You just read it out, what are they? Next is the pollination by water, that is hydrophily. Okay, so the example they have given Vallisneria, Zosteria, okay, etc. And again they have given the adaptation for what we can say, adaptation for pollination happens by water. Okay, now in the hydrophily they have given the two subtypes, that is hypohydrophily and epihydrophily. Okay, hypohydrophily means pollination occur below the surface of water. Okay, so the pollination is there, then it will occur below the surface of water, and here the pollen grains are heavier than water, so that it will sink down and caught by the stigmas of the flower. Okay, in case of hypohydrophily, again remember, it will occur below the surface and the pollen grains of that plant will be the heavier, and it will sink down and caught by the stigmas of the female flower. So they have given the example, that is Zosteria is nothing but the common name they have given is what? Sea grass. Okay, next type is epihydrophily. Epi, above the surface. Okay, so pollen grains float on the water surface and rich to the stigma of flower. So they have given the example Vallisneria. It is a submerged plant and it is a freshwater aquatic plant. Okay, so in which the female flowers reach to the water surface temporarily to ensure the pollination, and male flowers float on the surface of water to for the pollination, right? So this is what this is epihydrophily and hypohydrophily, the subtypes of hydrophily. Again, the comes under the abiotic pollinating agent. Okay. Next is what? Biotic pollinating agents. It includes the living agents. About 80% of plant requires the help of the other living agents. Okay, like moving creatures such as insect, bird, bat, snail to transfer their pollen grains from one flower to the another. Okay, now the first, that is pollination by insect, is known as what? Entomophily. So if we study the insect, then it will comes under the science branch, that is entomology. That is why the word is related to the insect. Okay, entomophily, pollination by insects. Okay, so the example they have given, the rose, jasmine, etc. are insect pollinating plants, and they have given the adaptation of that flower. You just read it out from your textbook. Next type is what? Ornithophily. Ornithophily is nothing but the birds, pollination by birds, that is ornithology, study of birds. Ornithophily, pollination by birds. Okay, example they have given is bombax, botania, etc. Okay, again they have given the adaptation for flower. You just read it out from your textbook. Last pollination, last type is what? Pollination by bats, that is Chiropterophily. Okay, this is the bats can transport the pollen from over a long distance, sometimes several kilometers. Okay, for example, they have given the kadamba tree, sausage tree. These are the examples of pollination by bat. Okay, now next point is what? Outbreeding devices or contrivances for maintaining the genetic diversity. Okay, so many plants have mechanism that discourage or prevent the self pollination. To promote the cross pollination and increase the genetic diversity, so plants have evolved a wide variety of sexual strategies. Okay, so they will maintain their genetic diversity. For them, the genetic diversity is what? It is the essential factor for evolution by natural selection. Okay, so they have given the 6 outbreeding devices. First is what? Unisexuality, dichogamy, propotency, heterostyle, hercogamy, and then self incompatibility, that is self sterility. Right, so we will see it one by one. What is the unisexuality? Sexes are separated, that is dioecious plant. Unisexual, they are male or female flowers are different. Okay, so example they have given the mulberry and papaya. Right,